are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for we are back here.
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Friday, September 13th. We have a lot to cover on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the $ icon in the chat. Any comments or thoughts that you may have, I can acknowledge during the live broadcast. It'll create a super chat. And it just makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day as we put out content. And any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us. And the other way, of course, to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net. So let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about last night's game between the Bills and the Dolphins. The Bills winning that game 31-10, but we will also talk about Tua as he suffered another concussion. So we'll get into that conversation as well. In the second part of the show, we'll get into previewing the Chiefs-Bengals game. That's one of the best games of the weekend, another matchup between Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. And the third part of the show will preview, some of the college football games, the big games, at least for this weekend, but the slate's not very good. So we'll get into that. Also, the early window games for Sunday as well. Then we'll get into talking about the late window games in the fourth part of the show. And then in the fifth part of the show, we'll get into previewing the Texans-Bears game, the Sunday night game. So that's the rundown for the show. So let's get into the first topic, which is talking about the Bills-Dolphins game from last night. And, it was a coin flip for me because I really didn't know what to do. I didn't feel great about taking the Bills, but I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stick with it. And what I said the final score would be 30-27. Well, the Bills got 31, but the Dolphins only scored 10 points. Tua, before the concussion, he was not having a good game. He threw 3 interceptions in this game. James Cook had an unbelievable game. 3 touchdowns in this game, 1 receiving, 2 rushing, and the Bills got the win. A tough game on the road early on in the season. I said this is a big game for both teams, and the Bills, they continued their dominance against the Dolphins. Josh Allen really didn't have a big game. He only went 13 of 19 for 139 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. James Cook, 11 carries for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. Khalil Shakir was their leading receiver. He had 5 receptions for 54 yards. And James Cook, again, the receiving touchdown, he had 1 reception for 17 yards. So, and also, the Bills had a pick 6 in this game, one of the interceptions by Tua. Jamarcus Ingram had 2 picks. One of them was a pick 6. Christian Benford, he also had a pick in this game as well. The Bills had a couple of sacks in this game. So, it was a solid performance by them. But the bigger story here is, of course, Tua getting hurt late in the game, suffering another concussion, and it was on a 4th down play. It was 4th and 4, and Tua picked up the first down. This was in the third quarter, late in the third quarter. Picked up the first down, but he didn't slide. Instead, he went head on. He had a head-on collision with Damar Hamlin, and he ended up going to the ground. And right away, it was not good. And it's unfortunate because last year, Tua stayed healthy, no concussions last year, and across the board when it comes to the NFL community, like everybody was really happy about that. Like, okay, good. Like, he didn't suffer any concussions because the year before that, there were 3 instances, with him suffering a head injury. And last night, it happened again. And it really just makes you wonder, like, what's going to happen going forward with him. Because now, this is 4 times in the last 3 years. And Anthony Manzano, a show regular, says in the chat, for his own safety and his long-term health with his injury history and concussions, honestly, Tua needs to retire. I'm saying this as a Dolphins fan. And the Dolphins are in a tough spot. Tua's in a tough spot because they just gave him that new contract. And, now this happens. But from not even a football aspect, from a, regular person aspect, might be the better decision to hang it up. As much as it stinks, you got to do what's best for you. And I'm sure Tua wants to keep playing, but I mean, his family, his peers, like, there's going to be people talking to him saying, listen, like, this is not worth it. You got to stop because this can't continue. And like I said, it really is a tough situation because the Dolphins just put a huge investment into him by paying him. He's one of the top paid quarterbacks in the league when you look at, everybody's yearly salaries. So, it's like, what's going to end up happening? Anthony also says, if there's people in his group tell him to continue to play, they're just leeches. Yeah, it's a really tough situation. But I'm of the stance of, you know what? Yeah, I think he's got to call it. He's got to call it because it's been too much. And again, last year, nothing happened, and it was great. He went out, had a great year, led the league in passing yards, but now it happened again. And it was a little bit different than the other times in 2022 because this was like him getting tackled and brought down to the ground and slamming his head against the ground. With this situation, he's running at somebody and suffers that injury. All he had to do was slide and we wouldn't be having this conversation, but that didn't happen. So it really is unfortunate because there were so many, as the game was going on, like as we were late into the third quarter before this injury, I was ready to, come on here and talk about how disappointing the Dolphins performed, and it still was disappointing. But the main thing of this conversation right now is making sure that Tua is okay. Now, Mike McDaniel spoke after the game that, Tua's in good spirits. But it's there should be tough conversations that are being had right now because I don't think Tua can continue. And I don't think that is what's going to happen, but that should be what happens. Anthony again in the chat. Do you think it's easy for us to say that he needs to retire when he has a family to support and that's why he's continuing to play? Yeah, no, listen, that is another great point, but you know what? He's made his money. Now he gets that big contract, but it is a really tough call. Because what ends up happening now with the contract now, you just get it, and now, what if you call it quits? It's a tough call. Because that's another big thing. You got to keep, you want to support your family too, and you retire now after just getting paid, but ultimately, football comes second. You got to do what's best for your health. And, again, this is his 4th concussion over the last 3 years combined. And it's just, at some point, you got to step back and it might be, it's a decision you don't want to make, but it's a decision you have to make. And I just think this should be it for him. So, but but you bring up a good point. It's, but that doesn't mean like maybe he goes and becomes he gets involved in media. I mean, how many football players, former players, go and work for some of the TV networks? He could do that. Get involved in the college game. Be an analyst there, something. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there. You could still be a part of the game, just maybe not playing. But that's just my opinion. Find an alternative way, I guess, to support your family. Because I don't think it's playing the game. And you hate to say it, because this Dolphins offense is really fun to watch, and he had a solid year last year, and you wanted to see him build off of that, but yeah, I think the right decision here has to be you got to step away. But yeah, it is a we'll see how this all unfolds, but just as long as he's okay, that's the main thing. His health is the most important thing. So, but that's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you guys think, though, about Tua's injury as well as the game. I know we really kind of just breezed through the game and didn't really go into detail with it, but the Tua stuff is, the main thing I wanted to cover. But, the Dolphins, once again, they do lose to the Bills. The Bills are now 2-0. Dolphins dropped to 1-1. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think, though, about everything that transpired last night. So we are going to take our next break. When we come back, we will preview another matchup between Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast, and for the second part of the show, we are now going to get into previewing the Chiefs-Bengals game for this weekend, another matchup between Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. One of the best games of the weekend. Now, both teams, when it comes to week 1, Chiefs, of course, got the win against the Ravens by their tippy toes. And the Bengals losing that game to the Patriots as they continue their early season struggles. And usually when we get this matchup, it's later in the season. But we're getting it early on. So, might not see the way Joe Burrow played in week 1. I mean, who knows how he's going to play in this game. But, I mean, Mahomes looked like he was in midseason form. And, Joe Burrow's coming back, still trying to work his way back from the wrist injury. And I know people still have their concerns with that, with the viral video of him trying to pick up a water bottle, which was not a big deal at all. I don't know why people are making such a big deal out of that. I've definitely picked up water bottles like that in my life. Now, you'll say, well, you didn't come off of a, wrist surgery. Yeah, but I really don't think he was struggling to pick up that water bottle. Now, obviously, when he's, flexing his wrist, yeah, that concerns me. But, I mean, him simply picking up a water bottle, like, guys, what are we doing? Seriously. But, yeah, these two guys matching up once again. Really excited for this game. The Chiefs right now are 6-point favorites. The line opened up at 4. The Chiefs were favored by 4. Now it's 6. And in my spread pool, it's I think it's 5.5. A lot of people are on the Bengals, at least on CBS. 73. The public bet, it's 73% Bengals, 27% Chiefs. And then the money line right now, it's Bengals plus 215, and the Chiefs are minus 267, and the over/under is 48. Yeah, I mean, look, last week, like I said, Joe Burrow did not play well. The Bengals offense got shut out in the first half against the Patriots. Now, they should have had 7, but Tanner Hudson just, I don't know what happened on that fumble. He literally was a walk-in touchdown, and he fumbled. So I don't know what happened there. And, yeah, I mean, they lost to the Patriots, a team that, is not really expected to be good this year. But, again, this is what the Bengals do. They start off the season slow. And then as for the Chiefs, they get off to a fast start, with the win over the Ravens. And this game is in Arrowhead. And the last time that, these two quarterbacks faced off was, you got to go back to the 2023 AFC Championship game, the 2022-2023 season. And the Chiefs won that game. Last year they met in Arrowhead, these two teams, but Burrow did not play. Of course, Jake Browning did. And the Bengals actually were winning that game. They were up by 10 points, but the Chiefs came back. It looks like there's going to be no T. Higgins in this game, so that's going to be a problem. So, some of the young guys are going to have to step up. Yeah, for the Chiefs, look, their defense, I mean, Lamar Jackson ran all over them. Now you got Joe Burrow, who, he can get out of the pocket when he has to. But, that Chiefs defense, I think, is going to have a better game than it did in week 1. I think they're going to get pressure on Burrow. And, I don't think I like the Chiefs in this game just because, again, they're at home and the Bengals getting off to this slow start. I think that's going to continue in this game. And no T. Higgins, I think, is huge because now all their focus is going to be on Jamar Chase. And, they got some young guys that are unproven. So, and with the running back situation, you got Zach Moss and Chase Brown. Zach Moss did have a touchdown in the game last week against the Patriots. But, yeah, and with the Bengals defense going up against the Chiefs offense, I think Mahomes and that offense is going to put up points. I mean, the Bengals know how to play against the Chiefs. So, this game definitely can be closer. It's always a 3-point game. But I don't know. Because the Bengals got off to a slow start, I can't really take them with the points. I'm leaning the Chiefs in this game. But we'll have to see. Both teams struggled against the run last week. Like I said, Lamar Jackson, really gave that Chiefs defense a hard time. The Bengals gave up 170 rushing yards to the Patriots. So, we'll have to see what happens. But, I like the Chiefs in this game. I'm going to say they win by a touchdown. I'm going to say they win. I'm going to say 27-20. I'm going to say 27-20 Chiefs win. Again, it's another week for Burrow to get right, but I think that's Chiefs pass rush with Chris Jones. I think they're really going to bring it, and it's going to be a problem. And like I said, T. Higgins being out, most likely being out, is not good. So, some of the young guys are going to have to step up. And how is this Bengals defense going to be against the Chiefs offense? I mean, you saw last week. They could beat you in so many different ways now. The offense is miles better already than what it was last year. Adding Xavier Worthy. They might be getting Marquise Brown back this week. Rashee Rice had a good game. You still got Travis Kelce. This Chiefs team, like I said, they look like they're in midseason form already. And I think that's going to continue in this game. Now, would I be surprised if the Bengals pulled off the upset? No, because, Burrow in the regular season is undefeated against Mahomes. Now, it's all been in Cincy. Now this game's in Arrowhead. And the last time these two quarterbacks matched up, it wasn't Arrowhead. It was in the championship game a couple of years ago, and Mahomes got the best of Burrow. So, if the Bengals win this game, then, you could call Arrowhead Burrowhead again, So, that was... Why the Bengals did that, it's just... And I get it. Trash talking is part of the game. But, when you do something like that, you better hope you win. Because if you don't, it's going to look so bad. And it did. And not only that, a couple of years ago, you had the mayor of Cincinnati, with the paternity test to determine that Burrow was Mahomes' father. It's just, like, why? You just look silly after the fact. But, most of America is going to be rooting for the Bengals in this game because they just want the Chiefs to lose. So, I think Burrow will definitely play better than he did last week. But, I'm leaning Chiefs in this game. I just think, right now the Bengals, they got to work through their struggles. The Chiefs, they're rolling already. So, and I'm saying that because they went against a good Ravens team. It's not like, they had an inferior opponent. The Ravens are in the same, you'd say the Chiefs are in a class of their own, but the Ravens are right behind them when you're looking at, the rankings of the teams in the NFL. The Ravens are one of the best teams in the NFL. And, the Chiefs offensively looked good. Now, Mahomes had that boneheaded interception, right before the end of the first half. But you know what? That's going to happen. And I don't think and like I said, I don't think their defense is going to get shredded like it did against the Ravens because Burrow's not Lamar Jackson. So they're going to bring pressure, and I'm sure Jamar Chase is going to get a lot of double coverage. So, this is going to be a tough game. And can the Bengals establish a running game in this game? Because, the Chiefs, that was something they struggled with last week. That was something they struggled with last year. And, this is a game you kind of wish you had Joe Mixon because Joe Mixon has done well against the Chiefs in the past. And look at what he did last week with the Texans. So, we'll see what happens. But I like the Chiefs in this game. It should be an entertaining game. I hope it is. One of the best games of the weekend. But let me know what you guys think, though. How do you see this game playing out. Like I said, I got the Chiefs winning 27-20. So, we'll see what happens. But before we go to break, I just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the $ icon in the chat. This will help create a super chat of any thought or comment you may have that I will acknowledge during the live broadcast. And it just makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, if you don't do that, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCpodcast.net. So, when we come back from our next break, we will get into more previewing. We will look at, some of the college football games for this weekend. Again, the slate is not great. We'll get into that. We'll also talk about the early window games for Sunday as well. We're week 3 in the college football season, and of course now week 2 in the NFL. So that's what we're going to get into. I know I didn't really. I'll also I know I talked about it a little bit, but get into some of the matchups from last week on college football, because this whole week was NFL. NFL just took over the entire week, and that's really what's going to happen now going forward. The NFL is just going to dominate topics here. So that is what we will get into when we come back from our next break. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, we're back here on the GSMC Football Podcast, and for the third part of the show, we're going to get into, talking about some of the college football matchups for this weekend, as well as getting into the early slate of games for Sunday in the NFL. So, I did want to. I know I talked about it on one of the previous shows, the previous week in college football. Just some takeaways. That loss by Notre Dame at home. Yeah, that was rough. This is a team that, the week before they beat Texas A&M on the road, and listening to the broadcast there, and that this was going to be the toughest game on their schedule, and then they go home and they lay an egg like that. That's rough. And I know in the production meeting, our college football host Tommy was talking about it, and how no matter what they do, they should not be a playoff team. And sure, he's not the only person saying that. The Michigan-Texas game kind of went as I expected. I mean, Michigan's offense week 1, I know they got the win, but was not great. Texas is one of the best teams in the country. So I did expect, Texas to, kind of dominate that game. Was not surprised by I watched Nebraska and Colorado. Again, Colorado's defense is not good. And I will be seeing Nebraska when I go, and because I'm going to be going with some buddies down to Ohio State to watch Ohio State-Nebraska, and that could be a very good game. Wasn't really surprised by that either. So, yeah. Also, watched a little bit of Miller Moss, USC. He looks good. He looks good so far. So, looking like a good replacement for Caleb right now. But, yeah, that's just, some quick little takes that I got. But, yeah, for the slate this weekend, So got a couple of games tonight. You got UNLV taking on Kansas, and you also have number 20 ranked Arizona against number 14 ranked Kansas State. KSU is a 7-point favorite over Arizona. That game will be on Fox tonight. So that's a game to pay attention to. Also, looking at the Saturday games, you got Alabama and Wisconsin. Wisconsin's the home team. They're a 16-point underdog. You also got Memphis against Florida State. Can Florida State get a win? Maybe. Memphis is 2-0 on the season. Florida State is 0-2. I mean, it's been a rough go for them after going undefeated last year. LSU at South Carolina. That's on ABC. South Carolina's 2-0. LSU is 1-1. South Carolina's a 6.5-point underdog. So, that could be a good game. Boston College is now ranked. They are 2-0. They're going to be going up against Missouri, who's, a top 10 team. They're 6th in the rankings. They're a 15.5-point favorite. I'd probably lean towards taking them. But, yeah, an impressive, win by Boston College, beating Florida State. But, yeah, I think I would say they lose that game. Some of the other games here, I mean, again, you got Oregon State and Oregon. Oregon's a 16.5-point favorite there. I'm trying to see if there's any. I got UConn and Duke. Yeah, that's a good basketball matchup there. Texas, they are at home taking on UTSA. I mean, and they're favored by 35.5. So, probably take Texas in that. Or you are going to take Texas. Actually, one of the big games this weekend is Colorado and Colorado State. This was a very high-scoring game last year. Colorado State's been doing a lot of talking this week. They're +7. I might take that. I know when I was talking to some friends last night when we were watching the Thursday night game, could be a trap, but yeah, I don't know. I think I might take Colorado State in that game, but we'll see. But yeah, that's just some of the games. I mean, not the best slate. And again, this is coming from me, who's not a college football expert, but that's really my my thoughts. So yeah, probably try to watch the Alabama game. I do want to watch the Colorado State game. Definitely want to tune in for that. But yeah, no, that's my thoughts on some of the games there. Again, not the best slate for Saturday, but yeah, that's what's on tap there. So now let's get into the early window games in the NFL. So we'll start off with the Raiders and the Ravens. So the Raiders, they lost to the Chargers 22-10. The Ravens losing that tough game to the Chiefs last week. Ravens are a 9.5-point favorite at home. It's a lot of points, but you know what? I think the Ravens get the win here, and I think they do win by a couple of scores as well. I know Gardner Minshew went on the road last year and beat the Ravens, but that was a member of the Colts. I think this is going to be a tough game for the Raiders, so I think they're going to fall to 0-2 here. And I feel confident that the Ravens can cover this number, even though it's a big number. Chargers and the Panthers. Speaking of the Chargers, 6.5-point favorites on the road against the Panthers. J.K. Dobbins had a great game. Also, shout out to Joe Alt, their first-round draft pick. I mean, he locked down Max Crosby. So, that was a great pick. I mean, I know people wanted the Chargers to maybe take a receiver. I mean, they still did with Ladd McConkey, but, they wanted to take, Neighbors or, Roma Dunze. But, they waited on a receiver. They got, they got their receiver. And, to protect Herbert, that's big. And, the running game was effective. J.K. Dobbins, let's see what kind of encore performance he can have here. But, yeah, I just think the Panthers are bad. Again, Herbert's trying to still get on the same page with his receivers. So, this offense is going to get better as the season progresses. with Justin Herbert healthy. So, yeah, I'm taking the Chargers here and laying the points. Couple other games here. So you got the Saints and the Cowboys. The Saints all over the Panthers last week, 47-10. And the Cowboys, a good performance against the Browns. The Cowboys played well, but that was more about how bad the Browns were, in my opinion. And yeah, it's an interesting game. Look, I know the Saints looked really good against the Panthers, but I think this game is going to bring them back to reality. The Cowboys are good at home. Again, 6.5 is, it's a decent sized number. I don't like laying the points, but I'm going to lean towards the Cowboys being at home. So I'm going to take them in that matchup. Then we got another playoff rematch from last year. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers take on the Detroit Lions. Lions getting that win in overtime, 26-20 over the Rams, and the Buccaneers dominating the Commanders, 37-20. Baker Mayfield 4 touchdown passes. The Bucs are getting 7 points in this game, and the line started at 5.5, and now it's gone up to 7. That's a big number. And the Bucs, they played the Lions tough in that playoff game. I don't like. It's a tough call. I do have the Bucs with the points. I do think the Lions will still win the game, but I think I still gotta go. I gotta take the points here, with the Buccaneers. But I think the Lions do win this game. Should be a good game though. Then we move on. You got the Packers and the Colts. Packers are 3.5-point underdogs. There is no Jordan Love in this game. Also, Josh Jacobs is dealing with a little bit of a back issue, but I think he should still. He's been limited in practice, but I think he should be able to play. But yeah, the Packers lost to the Eagles in Brazil, and Anthony Richardson and the Colts, they did lose to the Texans, but Anthony Richardson played really well against the Texans. And I expect him to play well here. I think the Colts do get this win on the road. I mean, Malik Willis starting. I don't think that's going to go well for the Packers. So I like the Colts to win and cover. But we'll see. It's Packers home opener. So, the crowd's going to bring it. Then we got the Browns and the Jaguars coming off of 2 disappointing losses in different ways. The Browns just looked flat. Deshaun Watson did not play well at all. And the Jaguars had a 10-point lead against the Dolphins, and they lost it. 14-point lead against the Dolphins, and they lost it. But the Jags are 3.5-point favorites. I like the Jags in this game to win and cover. I was going back and forth because I'm like, I feel like the Browns could get back on track, but I don't know. Deshaun Watson did not play well, and I think the Jags, in their home opener, I think they'll bounce back and get the win here. So I'm going to take them. Then we got the 49ers and the Vikings. Vikings are 6-point underdogs at home, coming off of a win against the Giants. The 49ers coming off of their win against the Jets. We'll see what happens with Christian McCaffrey if he does play or not. I'm going to say the 49ers win, but I think the Vikings are going to give them some fits. They got playmakers on offense. I like the Vikings defense, and they gave Brock Purdy problems last year, and I don't think Jordan Mason is going to have the same game that he did against the Jets. So Brock Purdy's going to have to throw the ball more. But you know what? I actually do like the Vikings to cover here. It's their home opener. They're getting 6 points. That's a lot of points. Of course, the 49ers defense could take over the game and, turn Sam Darnold back into, the Sam Darnold that, some people are accustomed to seeing. But no, I think Darnold's going to play okay in this game because of the playmakers that he has. But, yeah, 6 is a big number. I like the 49ers to win, but I like the Vikings to cover. Then you got the Seahawks and the Patriots. Seahawks coming off a win over the Broncos. Patriots coming off of a win over the Bengals. They're a 3-point underdog at home. I actually do like the Patriots in this game to win and cover. I was not impressed by Seattle's offense last week. I know Kenneth Walker had a good game, but he got banged up. I don't know. The Patriots, I mean, it's not like they played great, but they have a good defense. And, Jacoby Brissett managed the game, and Rajay Stevenson, played well. I don't know. I mean, you got two rookie head coaches, but, the Patriots are at home. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I at least like the Patriots to cover. Maybe winning outright is a little too out there, but they got a shot to do it. And I actually will take them to upset the Seahawks. I'll take a risk there. All right, so now we got the New York teams left. Jets and the Titans. Titans are 4-point underdogs at home. Jets coming off of that loss against the 49ers, and the Titans were up 17-0, and they blew it against the Bears. I actually like the Titans to cover. I think they'll be able to run the ball well with Tony Pollard. Had a good game against the Bears. I'm going to say he does well again. But Will Levis is going to have to do better than his performance against the Bears last week. And I think Aaron Rodgers will play well. Like I said, I think it'll be a competitive game, but I think the Jets get the win, but I have the Titans covering. It's gonna be a tough game for the Jets, but I'm gonna say they win. And then finally, got the Giants and the Commanders. The Giants are 2.5-point underdogs. This is a team that they always beat. I'm gonna say they do continue that trend, but I would not be surprised if they lose this game. The Commanders have a new quarterback now in place, in Jane Daniels. And showed flashes last week. The rushing ability that's going to be a problem for the Giants. But listen, Daniel Jones, if you don't play well against the Commanders, that potentially could be it for him. I don't know, but I'm going to say the Giants get the win here and they bounce back because they own Washington. But if you don't beat Washington, like I said, it's a big problem. So yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to this segment. Let me know what you guys think. Out of all the games we talked about, what's something you're focusing on this weekend when it comes to these games. So we're gonna take another break. When we come back, we will get into previewing the late window games for Sunday. I know we covered Chiefs-Bengals, and we are going to cover Texans-Bears in the last segment. So a couple games on the slate that we will get to when we come back from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast, and for the fourth part of the show, we are now going to get into previewing some of the late window games, a couple games here, because I know, like I said before we went to break, covered Bengals-Chiefs, and we're going to be covering the Texans-Bears game in the final segment. So, a couple games here. The first one we'll talk about is the Cardinals and the Rams. Cardinals are 1-point favorites at home. Cardinals coming off of that tough loss. Well, both teams are coming off of tough losses in different ways. Cardinals coming off of that tough loss against the Bills, where they were up by a few scores, but the Bills came roaring back. And then, for the Rams, that tough overtime game loss against the Lions. And, the Rams are a team that, typically owns the Cardinals. And something interesting, actually, looking at the odds here. So the Rams opened up as a 3-point favorite, and now that has gone down, and now the Cardinals are, like I said, the Cardinals are the favorites, and the Rams are a 1-point underdog. The Rams, when it comes to the money line, they're plus 100. Cardinals are minus 120. And you know what? I did like what I saw from the Cardinals. Kyler Murray being back. I mean, the Cardinals are going to be a more competitive team. They just are. With him being back. And, of course, James Conner had a good game. But the one thing is, got to see Marvin Harrison Jr. getting more involved in this offense. And Kyler had something interesting to say the other day when it came to getting him the ball. And I'm going to try to find the quote. But it was so strange. Because it was about, like I said, getting him the ball, getting, Marvin Harrison Jr. the ball. And he said something along the lines of, like, that's not his job. I'm trying to see. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so Kyler said it's not his job to get the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. That's basically what he said. But I'm just very confused by that because you're the quarterback. You have to get him the ball. Unless he means, like, I mean, he could also mean, like, the play calling. I don't know. But there was a play in the game where Marvin Harrison Jr. was wide open and Kyler missed him. I don't even think didn't throw it his way. So I think he's going to get more involved this week. That's my guess. And then for the Rams, they're dealing with injuries right now. To the offensive line, they are completely banged up on the offensive line. There's no Puka Nacua, and he could be out longer than the initial 4 games because he was placed on IR. And actually, speaking of, I wanted to check and make sure I got my pickup, and I did. All right, so that's good. I picked up because in my fantasy league, someone dropped Trey Benson, and I have James Conner, and I'm like, I need to get him just in case James Conner gets hurt because... And James Conner, when he plays, he's a monster, but, he sometimes misses games. So, I had to pick up his insurance policy by picking up Trey Benson. So I did get Trey Benson. Also, one of my friends put Jamison Williams on waivers, and it was an interesting move because Jamison Williams had a good game on Sunday. And I was like, why would you want to drop him? But I don't know. That's a separate topic. But, yeah, so I got Trey Benson, so that's good. But, yeah, I expect James Conner to continue to have, good games. I mean, he's a stud. This is not the same Rams team from a few years ago. This is a weaker Rams team. Still good, but, dealing with injuries right now. I expect this to be a competitive game. And, the other thing, too, is with the Rams, Cooper Kupp is back, like I said earlier in the week. He's back. So he's going to be, back to being the guy in this offense. And, Kyren Williams is continue. He had a big game against the Cardinals last year. I expect that. I mean, I don't expect the numbers he put up in the game in Arizona last year because I think he had like 3 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. But I expect him to do well, even with the offensive line banged up like it is. Cooper Kupp, I expect, to do his thing. The big thing is making sure that Matthew Stafford, stays upright. They were getting the ball out quickly last week. Listen, Sean McVay is a great coach, and he's going to make it work, no matter what the circumstances are. So, I expect the Rams to do their thing offensively. DeMarcus Robinson's going to have to step up like he did last year. Tyler Johnson, the former Buccaneer, made some plays last week. That big play in the second half, I believe, against the Lions. Guys are going to have to step up. And, it's going to be a competitive game, but I'm going to say the Rams do take this game. I'm going to give them the win. It's going to be tough, though. It's going to be tough, but, again, they own the Cardinals, and I think that's going to continue here. So I like the Rams to win outright, and I might place a bet on it this week. So I'll probably end up losing money, but it is what it is. All right, so then the second game that we're going to cover here in this segment is the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Denver Broncos. So the Steelers coming off of that 18-10 victory over the Falcons, And the Broncos coming off of that loss against the Seahawks 26-20. Bo Nix did not play well in his debut. And, it is the Broncos' home opener. They're a 3-point underdog. Justin Fields, it looks like he is going to get the start again for the Steelers, with Russell Wilson still banged up. And, we talked about this. If the Steelers start off 2-0, it's going to be hard to go back to Russ. So, we'll see what happens and how this game goes. But, look, TJ Watt was a one-man wrecking crew last week against the Falcons. And now they're going to be playing against a rookie quarterback. Now, different kind of atmosphere because you're going from playing in the dome in Georgia to now playing in the mountains in Colorado. And, and Denver's kind of a funky place to play because of that with the altitude. But, I think the Steelers' defense is going to come to rise to the occasion and give Bo Nix a hard time. Once again, I think TJ Watt, once again, is going to have a big game. And I like the Steelers to win and cover. Bo Nix, threw some bad interceptions in the game last week. I think that's going to continue here in this game. And I just think the Steelers are going to put a ton of pressure on him. And I think it's going to be a long day for him once again because that Steelers pass rush is relentless because of TJ Watt. I just think that's going to continue here. And I think Justin Fields is going to do, what he's supposed to do. And, maybe he does put up better numbers than he did last week, but you know what? He did what he was supposed to do in that game. Didn't turn the ball over. Did not put the ball in harm's way. Made plays when he had to. Took off with it when he had to pick up some first downs and, hit George Pickens on some big plays. And let's, see the Steelers running game do a little bit more as well. I like the Steelers in this game. I think they should get the win, but we'll see what happens. It's the NFL and it's unpredictable. But I do like the Steelers to win and to cover. I think it'll be a low-scoring game, but I do like the Steelers to cover, win and cover. So that's my thoughts on those two games. Again, we covered the Chiefs and the Bengals already, and then obviously the last segment we'll get into the Sunday night matchup, and then we'll wait till Monday to preview the Monday night game, Falcons Eagles. We'll wait to get into that, but yeah. So to kind of just run through my picks again. So we'll start from the early slate. So, like the Ravens to win and cover, the Chargers to win and cover, the Cowboys to win and cover, the Bucks to at least cover, but the Lions went outright. Colts to win and cover, Jags to win and cover, the Vikings to lose but to cover the spread. Patriots, I'm going to give them the upset. So I'll take them with the points and the upset. Titans, I'll pick them to cover, but the Jets to win. Giants, I got winning outright. Rams, winning outright. The Chiefs winning outright and covering the spread, and the Steelers to win and to cover against the Broncos. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, some of the best games for this weekend, Buccaneers, Lions, Bengals, Chiefs, and some of the other games I think could be entertaining, like Jags, Browns. We'll see. Vikings, 49ers, I think could be entertaining if the Vikings offense, puts up points like it did last week against the Giants, but it's a whole different ball game going up against the 49ers. Cardinals, Rams, I think it could be good as well. And then, of course, you have the Sunday night game, which we will get into in the next segment. But yeah, and talking about the Packers and the Colts again, hopefully, Jordan Love could be back next week, which would be huge, because if he's out for an extended period of time, you don't want the Packers to fall further and further out. Yeah, and my friend actually just said in the chat, Dolphins should sign Tannehill to lead them on a Nick Foles run. And then he said, to be honest, they're probably better off with Skylar Thompson right now than the Packers are with Malik Willis. Yeah, I mean, Malik Willis played well in the preseason, but I mean, I didn't really pay attention to that, but, you know, I think the Packers should have maybe... I mean, I guess they figure, like, if Jordan Love was maybe going to be out for an extended period of time, maybe they looked elsewhere, but I guess maybe they figure he could be back sooner rather than later. They just say, you know what, just have Malik Willis start, and then we'll go from there. You know, with Jordan Love hopefully coming back. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting what the Dolphins do, with the Tua stuff, and with the Packers. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully Jordan Love is back sooner, because it looked like he was going to be out for the year, which would have really, put a damper on this NFL season already. But that's not the case. He'll be back soon. But yeah, got to pay attention to a lot of quarterbacks this weekend, because some of their jobs could be on the line. So, we'll see how it goes. But, yeah, so we're going to take our final break of the show now. When we come back, we will preview the Sunday night game between the Bears and the Texans, after both teams coming off of wins in Week 1 in different ways. So we will get into that. We will preview it when we return from our final break of the show. So, with that being said, for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are now going to preview the Sunday night game between the Texans and the Bears. Now, these two teams did meet in August for the Hall of Fame game that got postponed, or got called because of bad weather late in the game. But now we got the real deal. And this could be one of the best games of the weekend as well. The Bears coming off of that win against the Titans, a comeback win where they didn't score an offensive touchdown, and the Texans winning that shootout with the Colts 29-27. For the Bears, I mean, Caleb Williams is going to have to, play better. And look, we talked about this a lot, that there's going to be early season struggles. And you saw that against the Titans, and you're probably going to see that against the Texans too. But this offense is going to have to open up a little bit, because, look, the Titans and the Texans are two different teams. That was kind of dumb to say, but, with the Texans, this is a Super Bowl contender, in my opinion. And the Bears are going to have to keep up with this offense. Because, look, the Titans, they ran the ball well, but Will Levis did not throw the ball well through the air. Had that touchdown pass to Okonkwo, but other than that, I mean, he only threw for like 140 yards, whatever his stats were for the game. When it comes to the Texans, look, C.J. Stroud is going to bring it. I mean, adding Stephon Diggs already paying off, had a couple of touchdowns. And, Nico Collins had a big game. But Joe Mixon had a big game too. And Tony Pollard did well against the Bears. I mean, look, I think Joe Mixon will continue to run the football effectively for the Texans in this game. And this is a good Bears defense. We'll see how it goes, but the Bears are really going to want to open up this offense because they're going to have to keep up with the Texans. And, the Bears have the talent to do it. Caleb Williams is getting put in the spotlight with this game. So they are going to, they're going to have to keep up with the Texans. Can they protect Caleb Williams? Because the offensive line was a problem as well, especially on the interior. That's a problem. And, you got Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. So to go up against. So, yeah, that's going to be tough. However, I do like the Texans in this game. I like them to win and cover because I still think the Bears are trying to work through some things. I think the Texans are, we saw it last week. They're in a groove. They're one of the teams that, got off to a fast start, and they still got to work through some things. Every team has to, but the Texans look like they're, one of the teams that's ahead of the pack right now. And the Bears are still trying to figure it out offensively. They didn't score an offensive touchdown, like I said. They got one on special teams. They got the pick six. That's not how you're going to be. Yeah, you can get that in games against the Texans, but you also got to score offensive touchdowns in this game because the Texans are going to put up points. And it's the Texans' home opener. So, I like the Texans to win and cover here. But, I think it should be a good game. We will definitely see Caleb Williams, I think, will have a better game. I do think that, maybe he turns the ball over, but I think you're going to definitely see more than 93 passing yards. Now, Keenan Allen was on the injury report. I think he's trending towards maybe not playing, but that's something we'll have to keep an eye on throughout the weekend. Because, like I said, he's on the injury report. I'm trying to see if they got anybody else on the... so dealing with a heel injury. He did not practice on Thursday. He's questionable for this game. Roma Dunze also did not practice on Thursday. So, they could be down to just DJ Moore. And then for the Texans, Nico Collins was limited limited at practice on Thursday, but he's dealing with an illness, so he's going to play. Dalton Schultz did not practice on Thursday. He's questionable for this game. But if he's not in the game, that's not the worst thing in the world because you got 3 stud receivers. Tank Dell didn't have a big game, but made plays. But yeah, I think like I said, I like the Texans in this matchup. Right now, it's they're 6.5 point favorite, and that is a big number. It started at 4, but now it's at 6.5. A lot of people riding the Bears in this game. Their money line is plus 240. Texans is minus 305. The over/under is 46. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. Also for the Bears, get their running game going because DeAndre Swift only had 30 yards on the ground. So, we'll see how it goes. But, like I said, I like the Texans. They're at home. So, we'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think about this game. How do you see it playing out? We'll have to see. But, the Bears, they also got to give Caleb Williams some time to throw as well. Because if that offensive line's struggling in this game, it's going to be a long night for that Bears offense. But, yeah, we got to keep an eye on the receivers because, you don't have a Dunze and Keenan Allen in this game. I know DJ Moore can handle his own, but, yeah, that's tough. But we'll see. So, that we went through everything today for the week between college football and the NFL. Another week is upon us. But, yeah, the big story really is Tua and what goes on there. Now, Mike McDaniel said something interesting. If I could, I had the quote. I wanted to, a couple of quotes that he said, but I wanted to. One of the things he said was, I told him he's a starting quarterback of his family. Go in the locker room, take a deep breath, and I'll see you soon. But he also said, I don't know where I saw it. If I can find it again. Yeah, that's not what I wanted to look for. Mike McDaniel also said he was in good spirits. I was worried about my guy. It's not something you ever want to be a part of. But he also said when it comes to the retirement speculation now that's come out, because I saw Tony Gonzalez said he should think of retiring, but Mike McDaniel kind of said the opposite. And I wanted to get to that if I can find it. Let's see if I can find it. I'm looking, and so he said, I think it would be so wrong of me to even sniff that subject. It's more in line of actually caring about the human being. That's something that's entirely, you're talking about his career, right? His career is his. Bringing up his future is not the best interest of him. I'm going to plead with everybody that does genuinely care. That should be the last thing on his mind. I mean, I get what he's saying, but at the same time, it's like, and I saw a comment that someone made on the Instagram post that I saw of that quote. Retirement should be, one of the first things on his mind, because, this can't keep happening. It's serious. And health comes first. So, we'll see. And I know the Dolphins put a huge investment in him. And this is going to be something that we talk about in the production meeting in a little bit. I know that's going to be a topic of conversation. But yeah, that's something that you really got to consider. And it's sad. But your health is the most important thing. So, it's something that we'll definitely talk about next week, because I'm sure there'll be things that are coming out over the weekend. So we'll definitely. This is not the only time we're talking about this Tua stuff. This will be talked about, next week as well. And make sure to tune into the other shows, because I know the other show hosts are going to have their opinions on this as well. So make sure to look out for those too. But yeah, just the main thing is just hopefully Tua's all right. But yeah, I think there's some tough conversations that are going to have to be had, like I said. So, but yeah, that is pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows on the network, like I always say. We're really in it now with football. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff to talk about. A lot of good stuff, but a lot of bad stuff as well. As but that's what comes with it, And again, we will, any updates and things like that, we'll make sure to cover it. I mean, this is not going to be the only time we discuss this. This will be talked about. I mean, it's going to be talked about not just with us, but of course, all over sports media. So, obviously, you're going to have so many people saying different things. But I feel like, for the most part, the consensus is probably got to think about retiring when it comes to Tua. So, yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. But, yeah, just it was not good that happened last night. And you hope for the best. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. Enjoy the games this weekend. We'll be back again on Monday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I'm Kenneth Gruenfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy all the games. And I will talk to you guys on Monday. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.